OpenText Capture 26.2 introduced a new feature called Monitoring Hub. And this is a pretty significant addition, especially if you're responsible for supporting or monitoring a capture environment. But before we get into what it can monitor, I want to clear something up that I think could be confusing based on the explanation and the name of the feature. Monitoring Hub is not a new capture dashboard. It's also not a new capture module that you open up and start working in. Monitoring Hub runs in the background, collects data from Capture, and makes that data available to monitoring platforms like Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog, Splunk, and others. Things like performance, errors, connections, queues, memory usage, and so on. So in this video, we're going to keep it pretty simple. We'll look at how Monitoring Hub works, what information it gives you, and a few examples of what you can do with that information. Let's start with the basic architecture. In Capture 26.2, Monitoring Hub collects data from the Capture server and the Capture server database. To do this, there are several services running behind the scenes that collect and process that information. Capture provides the data, Monitoring Hub collects it and makes it available, and then a monitoring platform takes that information and turns it into things like dashboards and alerts. Monitoring Hub can make the data available in two main ways or formats, that is OpenMetrics and OpenTelemetry. For example, Prometheus can collect the OpenMetrics data, which can then be visualized using something like Grafana. OpenTelemetry provides another way of sending the monitoring data to supported platforms such as Datadog, Splunk, New Relic, Signos, and others. So the easiest way to think about Monitoring Hub is it's a layer that gets data and information out of Capture into the monitoring systems your organizations want to use. And that brings us to the most interesting and most important question. What can we actually monitor? Monitoring Hub exposes a lot of individual metrics, and we're not going to go through every single one. Instead, let's look at some of the major categories and, more importantly, why you might actually want to monitor them. So why does API performance matter? Maybe users are reporting that Capture feels slow or logins suddenly seem to be taking longer. Now there's actual data that can help determine whether communication within the Capture server is slowing down. Why monitor errors and warnings? Maybe errors suddenly start increasing. Are they coming from a particular module, a specific machine? When did the problem start? Monitoring Hub gives you data that can help identify those patterns. For module connectivity, maybe a module that should be normally connected suddenly isn't, or you're seeing repeated connection failures. Now those conditions can be monitored instead of waiting for someone to report a problem. Server health is probably where IT teams will get a lot of value. If the Capture server is running low on memory, experiencing unusual resource activity, or showing other signs of trouble, those metrics can now be brought into the monitoring systems IT is already using. License usage is pretty straightforward. Instead of finding out you've reached a license limit when users start having problems, you can monitor utilization and see when you're getting close. And task processing monitoring is interesting because now we're getting beyond just technical server health. You can get some visibility into the actual Capture workload, where items are ready, in error, not ready, pending, or waiting, and where potential bottlenecks may be developing. And those are just some examples. There are additional metrics available, but hopefully this gives you a better idea of the type of information Monitoring Hub is making available and why that information could actually be useful. Now let's look at what some of this can look like once you bring that data into an actual monitoring platform. At the most basic level, this is what some of that data looks like. And once that data is brought into something like Grafana, which is what we're seeing here, it can be turned into dashboards like these. Here, for example, we can visualize things like API performance, server health, module connectivity, licensing, and other information we just covered. So Monitoring Hub gives us a really useful new way to see what's happening technically inside the Capture environment, but it is very IT oriented, and what you're primarily working with are technical metrics. But seeing a problem and actually being able to do something about it are two very different things. And that's where I want to briefly remind everyone about PaperFree Clarity. At PaperFree, we built Clarity specifically for monitoring OpenText Capture environments. Clarity takes a different approach. Instead of simply providing monitoring data, Clarity also provides the Capture-specific widgets that organize and interpret that information for you. So it's not only data, but also the user interface. So administrators and business users can quickly understand the health of their environment, what's happening with their batches and workload, and most importantly, what needs their attention. And in many areas, Clarity doesn't just identify the problem, it gives administrators and business users the ability to actually take action directly from within Clarity. So while the new monitoring hub is primarily focused on providing technical data for IT and infrastructure teams, Clarity provides a ready-to-use, proactive, and actionable monitoring experience built specifically for OpenText Capture. We have full Clarity demo videos here on our channel if you want to see it in action. So that's the new monitoring hub in OpenText Capture 26.2. If you're looking at implementing it, figuring out what you should be monitoring, or just need help with your OpenText Capture environment, PaperFree can help. And if you're looking for proactive and actionable capture monitoring that's already built around the problems Capture administrators deal with every day, take a look at PaperFree Clarity. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more Capture content.